1,000.
I have 1,000. Who'll give me 11?
1,100.
1,100. Do I hear 12?
1,200.
1,200. Going once.
But the buyers had already made up their minds. A lame bull, at 6 years old, with unknown cause that was a bull headed to slaughter. You might get meat price for him, maybe 90 cents a pound on the hoof. 1,900 pounds at 90 cents came out to about $1,700. That was the ceiling, as far as anyone in the barn was concerned. Ellie climbed up on the second rail of the pen, slowly, and she watched him for a long time. She watched him shift. She watched him breathe. She watched the angle of his pasterns, and the set of his shoulder, and the way the hair was worn on his front left hoof. She took her notebook out of her coat pocket. She wrote things down. She held up her hand flat in front of her face, measuring something with her thumb against the distance, the way a person sights a fence line. She climbed back down. She walked around to the other side of the pen and watched him from there for another 4 or 5 minutes. Then she wrote more things down. A man named Curtis Lamb, who ran a 300-cow operation west of Tama, watched her from the coffee area. He told my father about it years later. He said, at first, he thought she was killing time, waiting for a parent. Then he realized she was taking notes. And that was when he started paying attention. Ellie had learned cattle from her grandfather. His name was Hal Barnes. He had kept 40 head of registered Herefords on a small place outside Gladbrook his entire adult life, and he had been, by most accounts, one of the better stockmen in that part of the county. Not famous, not wealthy, just steady, careful, and quiet, in the way that men who work with animals for 50 years become quiet. Hal had taken Ellie with him to auctions from the time she could walk. He had taught her how to read a bull's feet before she had learned long division. He taught her the difference between a limp that meant something serious and a limp that meant nothing at all. He taught her that most buyers look at a bull for 90 seconds and decide. He taught her that 90 seconds is not enough. Hal had died of pancreatic cancer in March of that year. 7 months before the sale, he had left Ellie his notebook, the one he'd kept for 31 years, full of pedigrees and weights, and the small observations that stockmen collect over a lifetime, and he had left her $4,200 in a savings account, which her mother had agreed she could use, one time, on one animal, if she wanted to try. She had been watching the Hollis sale listings for 2 months. She had driven out to look at Redwood 412 twice before the sale day, both times with her Uncle Ray. She had watched the bull walk on grass. She had watched him walk on concrete. She had watched him get up from lying down, which is the hardest thing for a bull with a real structural problem to do. And she had figured out something that none of the 90 people in that barn had bothered to figure out. The limp was not structural. It was a hoof abscess. A hoof abscess, if you have never seen one, is a pocket of infection inside the hoof wall. It is extraordinarily painful for the animal. It causes a pronounced limp. It looks, to an untrained eye, or even to a trained eye in a hurry, like the beginning of something much worse. Navicular disease, ring bone, a tendon injury, any of the things that end a breeding bull's career. But a hoof abscess, when it is actually a hoof abscess, is one of the most curable things that can happen to a bull. You trim the hoof, you find the pocket, you drain it, you wrap the foot. You give the animal 10 days in a dry, clean pen, and then he walks sound again. It costs, in total, maybe $60 and 2 weeks of patience.